Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from California's best named city, Sherman Oaks. The idea that the Iraqi government had nothing to do with it is an admission by the Iraqi government that they are ignoring their international obligations to defend Camp Ashraf and Camp Hura. But had nothing to do with it? How many checkpoints did the thugs have to go through in order to reach Camp Ashraf? Somehow they got through. And now this is a government that comes to the United States asking for military aid. We know how they'll use it, as they allow their airspace to be a corridor for thugs moving from Tehran to Damascus. And then when they say, well, we couldn't stop the planes, which of these planes would fly if they were going to face a challenge by Iraqi military forces? And where is the request from Baghdad to Ankara or to Riyadh or to the United States saying we want to stop these thugs from flying over our country and committing war crimes in Syria? Please help us and intercept these planes. Trust me, it wouldn't tax the efforts of the air forces of the United States, Saudi Arabia, or Turkey to challenge those planes in the air over Iraq. We cannot provide aid to Iraq unless Iraq is dedicated to human rights in its own country and an end to war crimes in Syria. I especially want to thank you, and this often goes unstated, for the role the MEK played in exposing to the world Iran's nuclear weapons program.
But let me try to put it in some context, because I think there are reasons why we're seeing this danger recur again and again, and why the MEK is victimized in this tragic way without our government responding effectively. And I do think it has a political motivation. It's not a partisan motivation, but it's a political motivation. And it has several aspects to it. Let me try and cover that. First is, I think that the fate of the MEK has been tied in the minds of senior officials at the State Department too long to the issue of the nuclear weapons program by the regime in Iran today. That the view that somehow or another the nuclear weapons program could be negotiated out of existence, and that the mindset of the Ayatollahs in Tehran could be affected if the MEK were treated in a way that suited them rather than suited the truth. And there was something that went along with that. That was a carrying forward of the commitment our military made to the inhabitants of Camp Ashraf back in 2003, and that is, and to me this is the breach of a commitment by the United States government on a bipartisan basis now over several administrations, that we have not given the inhabitants of Liberty and Ashraf the kind of protection that they need. This is another embarrassment, a stain on the reputation of the United States. We have hostages now taken from Camp Ashraf at the behest of the Iranians. I think there's little or no doubt that the al-Maliki regime has been acting in concert with Iran, and for 2 months now, the State Department's inability or unwillingness to talk about what actually happened at this attack on Camp Ashraf is motivated in large part because of concern about somehow adversely affecting the negotiations with Iran that are going on in Geneva as we speak here today on the nuclear weapons program. This is something, this is an entirely self-inflicted wound by the United States on our reputation for honesty and credibility. But the people who are most adversely affected are the ones formerly in Ashraf and in Liberty today. that this is something that I think members of Congress on a bipartisan basis that should prize the American reputation for humanitarianism, that should prize our belief that the United States has always had a leading role internationally, both through the High Commissioner for Refugees and on our own in providing protection and assistance to refugees. These are people that we ourselves designated as protected persons. We didn't rely on somebody else's designation, and we're the ones letting them down. This is also a massive failure of the United Nations system. I think we have seen documented over several years now that the UN's assistance mission in Iraq, UNAMI, has been not an arm of the United Nations, not an arm of the member governments, but effectively under the control of the al-Maliki regime. This is utterly inexcusable. So I think we've got to focus attention here in the United States. We can blame UNAMI, we can blame the High Commissioner, we can blame the al-Maliki regime, we can blame the regime in Tehran, and there's plenty of blame to go around there. But it should be the responsibility of the United States to help fix this crisis that we helped create. And there are several ways that we can do it. I hope that Congress will get involved to press the administration on this point. But we should certainly bend every effort to get the reprocessing accomplished as soon as possible, whether it's in the United States or some other country that might be willing to serve as a temporary relocation. We cannot afford to come back here in another few weeks or another few months and see another tragedy. We need to resolve this situation and stop talking about it. Thank you very much.